All right, today we're tackling a really powerful legal tool, the trust. We're going to break down exactly how you can create and register one right here in India. And trust me, we'll make the whole process super simple to understand. So, have you ever thought about the best way to legally protect your family's assets? Or maybe, you've dreamed of building a lasting charitable legacy? Well, the answer to both those big questions often points to the very same thing, a trust. It's this incredibly flexible tool that works for everything from private family wealth to creating public good. So, here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll kick things off with the absolute basics. What even is a trust? Then, we'll look at the big difference between public and private ones. After that, we're getting into the nitty-gritty, the actual registration process, all the documents you're going to need, and what life looks like after your trust is officially up and running.
Okay, first things first. Let's get right to the core question. From a legal standpoint, what exactly is a trust?
So at its heart, a trust is really just a three-way relationship. Think of it like this. It all starts with an owner, who we call the truster. This person transfers property to someone they trust, the trustee. Now, the trustee's job, and it's a big one, is to manage those assets for someone else, the beneficiary. And this whole setup isn't just a handshake deal. It's all governed and protected by the Indian Trusts Act of 1882. So let's just quickly run through those roles again. You've got the truster, that's the person who creates the trust. Then there's the trustee, the manager who makes sure everything runs smoothly. And finally, the beneficiary, who is the whole reason the trust exists in the first place. They're the ones who get the benefit. It's a legal relationship that's built, well, literally on trust.
Okay, but here's the thing. Not all trusts are the same. Their main purpose actually splits them into two big categories, public and private. So let's dive into what makes them different.
Really, the difference is pretty straightforward. A private trust is for a specific, defined group of people, like a family putting money aside for their kids' future. The goal is to help specific, named individuals. But on the flip side, you've got the public trust, which you'll often hear called a charitable trust. This one has a much bigger mission. It's all about benefiting the general public. We're talking about things like funding a hospital, a school, or maybe a religious temple.
All right, so you get what a trust is, and you figured out if you need a public or private one. So what now? Well, now we get to the fun part. Let's walk through the actual step-by-step blueprint for getting this thing registered.
The whole process is pretty logical, step by step. First up, you've got to pick a unique name for your trust and figure out who the trustees are going to be. The most important part, really, is drafting the trust deed. We'll talk more about that in a second. Once that's ready, you pay the stamp duty, take the deed to your local registrar, and submit it. And if everything's in order, boom, you get your official registration certificate.
Now let's talk about that trust deed, because this thing is the absolute bedrock of your trust. Seriously, think of it as the Constitution. It lays out everything: the trust's goals, who's involved, what the assets are, and all the rules for how it's going to operate. I can't stress this enough. It is the single most important piece of paper in this whole process.
Okay, so to make sure that whole submission process goes off without a hitch, you've got to get your documents in order. Let's go over the checklist of exactly what you'll need.
But hey, before we even get to the documents, there's one really important rule you need to know about the people. You absolutely have to have a minimum of 2 trustees to form a trust in India. It's a non-negotiable, and it's all about accountability. You can't just have one person running the show.
Okay, so here's that checklist. Get ready to take some notes. First, of course, is that super important trust deed, all properly done on stamp paper. Then you'll need the basics for everyone involved, the trustor, the trustees, so that's PAN cards, Aadhaar cards, and some passport-sized photos. You also need proof of the trust's registered address, like a utility bill. And one last thing, if you're renting that office space, you'll need a no-objection certificate or an NOC from the owner.
All right, so you've done it. You've got your registration certificate in hand. Awesome job. But the work isn't over. Getting registered is just the beginning. It opens the door to some amazing benefits for sure, but it also comes with a whole new set of responsibilities you've got to keep up with.
So what's the biggest perk of registering? Well, your trust officially becomes its own separate legal entity, and that is a huge deal. What it means is that the trust assets are now legally protected, completely separate from anyone's personal assets. Its operations are recognized by law, giving you a solid official framework to work within.
And if you've set up a public charitable trust, this is where it gets really good. Once you're registered, you can go for 2 game-changing certificates. The first is 12A registration, which basically makes the trust income tax-free. The second is an 80G certificate. This one's a huge incentive for donors because it means anyone who donates to your trust can get a tax deduction for it. It makes fundraising so much easier.
And last but not least, let's talk about those ongoing duties, the stuff you have to do every year. First, the trust needs its own PAN card. You'll use that to open a dedicated bank account just for the trust. From that point on, you have to keep really good financial records. We're talking balance sheets, P&Ls, the whole shebang. You'll need to get those audited by a chartered accountant every single year. And of course, file the trust's annual income tax returns. It sounds like a lot, but it's all about being transparent and accountable.
So there you have it. That's the complete blueprint, from the initial idea all the way to annual compliance. As you can see, a trust is so much more than just a stack of legal papers. It's a powerful vehicle for protecting your family's future or for building a charitable mission that can last for generations. So now that you know how it's done, the only real question left is, what kind of legacy are you going to build?